Good evening, Javi. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I'm so excited to have you on the channel and have all these questions answered. I know I want to know them for my own personal use, but I know a lot of other people will have use for it as well. So before we begin, tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do, and your background.
Of course. So first, thanks for having me. I'm excited. I think what you're doing is very impactful. I don't think there's enough of it out there, unless someone sits down with somebody like you or someone like me to specifically go over some of these items, right? So I'm a commercial banker, a banker by trade, if you will. Um, that's all I ever know. That and selling suits, right? That's been my life. Um, so I worked for Men's Warehouse for like 6 years. And after that started my career in banking, right? So have done the big, done the little banks and everything in between. Um, and that's really about it. I speak Spanish, right? So if anyone ever has any questions, we can handle them in Spanish. I think my mom would be very upset if I told anybody that that was not the case.
That's awesome. So you're a banker specifically for small business loans, correct?
Correct. So that's the biggest portion of my niche. Banking is just banking, right? So once you do one, you do all. The biggest reason I went into business banking and commercial banking is because the business and the individual, although tied together, always need totally different things. So it's always really exciting to talk to a business owner because they have their needs for the business and then they always have personal needs. It's funny because it always personal needs are secondary or not non-existent because it's always the business, it's always the baby, right? So
Okay. So leveraging the small business loans aspect and that part of what you do, why is business financing important?
so there always comes a time when a business reaches a certain level that it needs help to continue growing. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So a lot of times when companies get started, they are able to operate on the cash that the owner has been able to save up. They're able to operate on selling a service or an idea or a product, collecting that money, and re-continuing to invest. As these products or services get more complex, right? Or the sales of the products continue to increase and the orders continue to increase. The order that might have been $10,000 when you started, now to fulfill an order it's $100,000, it's $200,000 or more. So the idea is that you leverage what's called cash flow. So you take from Peter to pay Paul, right? So you take from the bank to pay your supplier, and then you sell your services, right? You collect from your services, and then you pay that back. That's one portion of it. Second is, I think, just like an individual might have a dream of buying a home, that same dream can be passed to the business. So I am in this office, right? But going forward, I want something that's right. Like I want my business to have its identity, its office, its warehouse, for on and on and on. And it's something that can be passed down through generations. So those are the biggest reasons.
So are there different types of financing?
I don't think our call or your video would be long enough to all of those.
So short answer is yes, right? Can
Short
you
answer.
can you just maybe tell us the names of the different kinds and a brief definition of what each one is? And maybe we'll have a follow-up video for each one of those different types of financing later on.
Yes. So in a nutshell, you have short-term and you have long-term financing. Short-term, I describe it to my clients, something that you'll pay out in about 6 months, right? A line of credit, a credit card. And within a line of credit, there's 10 different ways to set it up, depending on your business, on your structure, on the way that you collect, who you do business with. Long term is kind of what I was talking about earlier. It's the office, it's the warehouse, it's equipment, it's a vehicle, right? So the way that I describe it to clients, like I said earlier, it's 6 months or less to pay back, and probably anything 6 months or greater, right? Like I said, there's different variations of lines of credit, and then on the longer term, well, obviously for equipment, for vehicles, for offices and warehouse, that all depends.
Okay. So if someone wanted to apply for some financing, what do banks look for when a business is applying? What are some of the key elements?
I tell everyone that banks look for two things. They look for, one, the ability to pay, right?
Okay.
So if I'm lending you money, or if you're lending me money, you want to get your money back, right? So you look for the ability to get paid back. That's done through ways. Generally, the simplest way is looking at the cash flow of your business, right? The money that comes in, the money that goes out, what's left behind, and how much of that you're able to take on and repay. The second part of that is the story, right? I tell everyone that most underwriters are, if you're dealing with a local bank, it's a little different because some of these underwriters eat at these restaurants or have seen the businesses, know where the business is located. If you say something like Wynwood, you know where Wynwood is, right? If you say Medley, you know where Medley is. But if you're dealing with some of these larger banks, some of these underwriters may be in like Buffalo, right? Buffalo, New York. You say Wynwood, and that means nothing, right? For us, we know Wynwood has been growing over the last 10 years, but for them, it means nothing. So the ability to repay and the story, right? The story can be developed in many different ways, right? How you got to where you are, why you need to borrow this money, why certain things happen in the past, why did you do those, right? When an underwriter looks at this, they're like, okay, well, that makes sense, and this is how it was handled, and that's why he's better prepared for the future, or she's better prepared for the future. So.
Okay. Well, I know that we could dive very, very deep into this conversation, but do you have any general advice or common pitfalls for someone to avoid that is about to start this process or currently going through it?
Yeah, so I'll start with the advice first. Okay. I think the biggest thing is to make sure all your advisors, right, know what your goals are. Generally, most people are willing to help, right? Whether it's a friend or it is a CPA or a banker or an attorney, an insurance agent, anyone that's involved in your business, let them know what your goals are, right? What you want to do with this business, because at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones that are going to be able to help you. Okay. As far as pitfalls, I would say that generally people go into business for two reasons, right? They want to make money and they enjoy the flexibility, right? I think those are the two biggest reasons, or it's safe to say that those are the two biggest reasons why people do it. They go hand in hand, and sadly, they're almost a double-edged sword. So what I mean by that is the same flexibility that you have to work at 6 a.m. or work at 10 a.m. and have no one to tell you anything. The same goes with your finances. So when you're speaking to a CPA, you want to let them know, hey, listen, like I want to be able to grow this business, because there are ways. When you work for yourself, you're able to CPA rather is able to guide you based on those same flexibilities, right? When you work for a company and you get paid a W-2, that's just it's a box. You make this much, you pay this much in taxes, and your expenses are after the fact. When you go into the business for yourself, you make this much, you spend whatever you want, and your accountant fills in the gaps. So that's why I say those two things go hand in hand, and why you should talk to all your advisors about what it is that you want to do with your business.
Okay. So if someone doesn't necessarily have an advisor in their back pocket and they wanted you to advise them on, some basics, give them some general advice because they're thinking about this process or wanting to start it right now, how can someone reach you if they have additional questions? What platforms are you on?
So I am on LinkedIn. That's probably the most professional way to get in contact with me, right? Javier Perez.
Okay.
Probably a million of them, but Javier Perez, you can search business banker and it'll come up. And I am on Instagram. It's almost like the banking way of life. DSCR stands for debt service coverage ratio. That's what it comes down to, almost.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. I know I learned a lot, and I know whoever's watching this video will learn a lot too. And I can't wait for the next one. I want to dive deeper into, the different types of loans and financing out there. But thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Absolutely. Thanks. Likewise. We'll talk.